speaker and commentator is Dr. Eldad Pardo. He's a senior researcher at the Truman Institute for the Advancement of Peace and lecturer at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, which is just across the street, in the Department of the Middle East Studies and the Rothberg International School. He is a member of the Truman Institute Iraq Research Group and had previously been the head of 2 research groups. One of them was religious actors in conflict areas, and his interests are strategy and politics in the Middle East. He has established 3 books and several articles. His latest book's name is Predicting Revolutions, so maybe he can shake us with new revolutions.
Thank you very much for coming to our troubled region. I'd like to, first of all, say how much I appreciate what I heard from Tom Walsh and Taj. I met this group for the first time around 2004. This was about a year after the MEPI pilgrimages started into the Middle East. And I can tell you that these groups really changed the situation in the Middle East. You are arriving to the Middle East in a comparatively optimistic note. We know that negotiations, the direct negotiations between Israel and the Palestinians are about to begin. We see Jerusalem, the city of peace, that is rather safe. Those of you who came with the first delegations know that there was no insurance in the world that would cover them, that every bus was about to explode, that it was really people sacrificed their lives to come over here. And I would say that the idea of the Interreligious Council, I was not aware about so much work that is being done behind the scenes in order to establish this council. But I can tell you one thing. In 2003, when the war here was at its apex, the diplomats just stopped working. There were no negotiations, no talks, only killings. And then these MEPI groups started coming to this region, and they spread the word of interreligious and interfaith dialogue. And this became a contagious grassroots phenomenon for great many years, at least for 5 years. We've seen a lot of meetings between Israelis and Palestinians, Jews, Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, what have you. And I believe the startup, the jump start of this phenomenon that created this atmosphere of safety that we have today started then. Also the politicians understood the United States changed its policy. Instead of going from up down, the policy now is bottom up. First of all, security, then economy. If you look at the Palestinian territory in the West Bank, today the annual economic growth is one of the highest in the world. Israel is also doing very well, but in the Palestinian territories, it's very, very rapid. This is really mind-boggling. It's amazing, and I think the whole idea, the notion that first we must have this spiritual coverage, spiritual involvement, and then the bottom-up attitude. First go to the person, first go to the people, and this will draw everything after it. We have to remember that our world was missing religion, was thirsty for religion for great many years, let's say at least from the middle of the 19th century when science started to become the substitute of religion. And this created a problem, a great anger among people, and particularly in this region of the world. And we saw it first in the Islamic Revolution in Iran in 1979. This was a revolution that wanted to bring religion back to politics. They were not aware of the great intellectual breakthroughs of True Father that really preceded them greatly, and they started to do it with a culture of death and suicide. So in 2003, when the MEPI delegations came here, this country was flooded with a culture of death. People in this region thought wrongly that there is no spirituality but through the sacrifice of one's life in an act of war. So we can blame these people, but we could also understand it. You cannot deprive people of spirituality and then expect them not to behave in some weird way. Our spirituality, our religiosity, our God are one and are part of all of us. And we cannot take it away from people. And that's why I think this idea of interreligious council is extremely important. It will perhaps be the most important move and action of humanity in the next millennium. And it's no wonder that it was perceived in the year 2000. Now, I would like to say that the idea to create a council is very important, and I would suggest that this council will also take care of all the religions that we have in the world. I think that the interfaith and interreligious idea allows religions such as Islam and Judaism that believe in the principle of one God and have a problem with, let's say, tribal religions, animist religions, Buddhist religions, religions that are not purely monotheistic. I think that by including all these religions in one interfaith group that is directed toward the one God, we, in this way, all follow the way that is Islam, meaning surrendering to God. And this way will allow us, on the one hand, great pluralism, not to destroy the small religions that are still exist in the world for the biggest religion, let's say Christianity, Islam, and so on. And on the other hand, we still keep our unity, or in Muslim terms, Tawheed, which is very important, that we are all united for God. So this is another point that I wanted to say. I think that for the Middle East, if we look to the future, we still have a long way to go. The negotiations that will begin next week will probably not lead to a final Palestinian independent state. What is the aim of these negotiations? As far as I could understand from reading, there are a lot of secrecy around it, is to create, according to the quartet vision, an interim Palestinian state with some independence, but not without final borders, and then the process will continue. What this means is that there is a lot of need in order for terrorism not to rise again, of spiritual involvement. Now let us look at the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people are divided today between the West Bank, where we have the Palestinian Authority and the Palestinian President, and in Gaza we have the Iranian Hamas group that still believe in reintroducing religion and spirituality to the world, and they really are interested in spirituality by the sword. And they believe that all the rest of us are materialistic and we are not religious and we do not follow the order of God, the one God. Now, this is a false looking on their part and on our part. So, in fact, we have a great common denominator. We both want to make God happy, and we both believe in that. But it is difficult for us to really bridge this gap, and only an inter-religious council and a spiritual third party that is involved in the negotiations can achieve that. I'm sure that without Palestinian unity, we cannot reach the stage of peace. And as long as the people that follow the Iran-Hamas way believe that the Palestinians of the West Bank and the Israelis and the rest of the world are materialistic and they do not follow the wish of God, there will be no peace. So we must find a way to convince them that we also want the same thing that they really want. On the side of Israel, Israel now is in a very solid, good situation. We have a strong government. As you know, the Jewish people, who is a tribe of. Okay, my time is up. 2 minutes. Okay, the Jewish people went through 3 major disasters. One of them was the Holocaust, then the destruction of Jewish communities in the Islamic world, and then all the wave of terrorism in the last 60 years and the efforts to destroy Israel. Right now, we see that the Jewish people in Israel is ready to find peace with Islam, and this is again thanks to your effort, and I'm not going no, we just follow your lead. There is so much interfaith activity between Jewish, Islamic Jews, and so on, and this is a lot of things. So I just want to finalize and say that I think the Interreligious Council is really what we need now. It's the extreme urgency, unity of religion, tolerance within this conference, continuing to help the peace process, and finally, now Iran that is moving ahead very fast with its nuclear weapons project. If there is an international, interreligious council in the United Nations, this will, no doubt in my mind, believe me, I'm an expert on Iran, this will convince the Iranian elites that there is no need to go to war, because their idea of introducing God into politics is happening. So this will just solve the problem, will melt it away in a peaceful way. Thank you very much.